Afternoon, everyone. Now, to say that 100 years ago at this time that Germany was in bad shape, that would truly be an understatement. At this time, 100 years ago, Germany had, they did their spring offensive, and General Erich von Ludendorff, he actually, well, who he was he was a general, and he had been, you could say, the de facto leader of Germany for the last couple of years. He had pretty much pushed aside Kaiser Wilhelm as far back as 1916, and pretty much been the one making a good majority of the calls in the German army and in the German government. So it was pretty much run by the military after 1916. And so he kept pushing his men to keep attacking and attacking and attacking, hoping to smash the worn out French and British and the green American troops and finally take initiative back in the West and win the war. Unfortunately, most of his crack troops were long since gone, and the men he had were starving. They'd been starving for almost 2 years at this point. So, as was mentioned, that after one failed attack after the next, they realized that they were pretty much against the ropes, and they really did not have much to bargain with anymore. And the people of Germany were starving, and people were just trying to figure out, okay, we need to find a way to bring this war to an end because we're not going to win it. Germany basically had to see the point that they were not going to win the war. And they knew that there's no way in the world they were going to get anything close to what were considered favorable terms from Britain and France. France and Britain had suffered way too much at the hands of the Germans, and there's no way that they were going to be anything close than saying pay up and pay up now. And so they decided to reach out to Woodrow Wilson. Why that was because what he had done earlier that year, and what Kaiser Wilhelm had been trying to do, is trying to present himself as the benevolent mediator. Sorry, I'm butchering that. And he's tried to present himself as a step back, a neutral position to try to help bring the war to an end. And he released in earlier of 1918 what were called Wilson's 14 points. Now, a brief summary of that was his theory on how to bring the war to an end was to be that there'd be no private agreements between nations, which already wasn't being done by Britain and France, because Britain and France had already done different treaties off the table, and they did them behind closed doors to bring Italy into the war and to bring Romania into the war, offering them deals. They did it also to bring Japan into the war by offering them deals as well, territory after the war. So that was already out. And another thing was freedom of the seas. Britain didn't like that idea. The Royal Navy was still the largest naval power. And a reason why they wanted Germany taken down a notch was because Germany, for the last several years, had been wanting to build a naval power equal to that of Britain, which was challenging British authority and British supremacy of the seas. So Britain wasn't for that idea, but that's one thing Wilson was calling for in the 14 points, freedom of the seas. And also, a couple of things that Germany was willing to go along with that Wilson called out for is he called for everything that Germany took from Russia to be given back. So they were like, fine, take it back. Another thing was that they'd had to give back the territory of Alsace-Lorraine in France, and on the border of Germany and France, which had been a French territory for a long time. It was seized by the Germans at the end of the Franco-Prussian War, and the French were still insanely bitter about that. And so that was also going to be given back. And the Germans were like, fine, take it back. And there was in there, basically summing it up in the 14 points, that there were going to be no major reparations. Nations were going to step back, rebuild, and just move on. And we're going to try to fix things and make them better and go forward, so everyone is working together and make it master of their own destiny. And so they reached out to Wilson on the premise that they wanted to arrange a negotiated peace with the Western Allies based on Wilson's 14 points. And Wilson really couldn't do much with that, but it finally got to a point where they reached out to everyone, and they were saying, we want to come into a negotiated peace based on the 14 points. Britain and France didn't actually say anything. And so Germany, as it could be said, was led to believe that they'd be treated fairly based on the Wilson's 14 points when they were going to, how shall we say, work out the armistice. And what had happened was, as soon as they negotiated the armistice, Britain and France had no intention of honoring it. because Britain and France were just way too upset. So that was the position of Germany at that time. Based on Wilson's 14 points, they wanted to hope to find a negotiated peace so that things could at least be, hopefully, be beneficial to the Germans, if not, you know, also if not to keep the British and French from exacting their revenge on them. So there you go.